Just because it's winter doesn't mean that there's not plenty to see in the garden. You won't want to miss it, so stay tuned as we garden smart.
These moments of beauty and relaxation are brought to you by Proven Winners Flowering Shrubs. Our goal is to leave you free to just enjoy your garden. Proven Winners Flowering Shrubs can be found at local garden centers across the country.
Power Planter's garden drill augers are designed to help you tackle the digging jobs in your garden or yard. Dig through hard soil to assist in planting trees, shrubs, and annuals. Power Planter's heavy-duty augers, made for professional landscapers and home gardeners alike.
DRAM has been providing gardeners with professional equipment for over 80 years. DRAM products feature 9 water patterns and are designed to nurture your plants with a shower of rain. DRAM for lawn and garden, available at garden centers near you.
The Jaguar F-Pace.
When George Vanderbilt found the property that he built his home on, he declared, "When I came to this spot, I found the prospect of it finer than any other I'd ever seen." The rolling hills and ample water, with incredible views of the mountains, the gardens at Biltmore Estates are second to none. George Vanderbilt engaged renowned architect Frederick Law Olmsted to bring harmony and elegance to every aspect of the grounds. Olmsted had recently designed many other important U.S. sites like Central Park in New York and was the perfect fit for this grand project. Biltmore Estates remains the largest privately owned home in the U.S. and is a National Historic Landmark. The team at Biltmore works tirelessly to preserve the past while ensuring the future of this beautiful place. The gardens of Biltmore Estates are some of the most impressive in the region and have been designed so that regardless of what time of year it is, visitors can enjoy a spectacular show. While much of the garden sleeps in the winter, there are many ways that we can add interest to the coldest month. And today, Director of Horticulture Bill Quaddy is going to share with us a host of tips to keeping the winter garden lively. Bill, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
So we're talking about fall color today. This
Yes.
is one of my favorite seasons of the year. And of course, millions of people get out onto the roads to go find the best leaves in the country. And it's just such a fantastic time seeing the change in the seasons. And Biltmore is a wonderful place to see the changing leaves.
It is, yeah. We've got 8,000 acres for the guests to explore and to see that beautiful fall color, whether from the house or through the gardens.
Okay, so as a horticulturalist, I'm sure you have all the information on why the leaves change.
I've got quite a bit of information, that's for sure, yeah. So there's chlorophyll that's in the leaves, and that's what gives the leaves that green color. And during the shortened day lengths that we get in the fall, that chlorophyll starts to break down, exposing the true leaf color. So when you see a yellow leaf, that's the true leaf color. It doesn't have that chlorophyll that's masking it anymore.
The long vistas here at Biltmore were very important to Olmsted's design, and I want you to talk us through the visitor's experience and the way that he thought about those long vistas and fall color.
Yeah, so Olmsted had what became known as 7 S's, and one of those S's is scenery. So any landscape that you look at is going to have that scenery in it. And for our guests, that starts on the approach road. As they come up the approach road, there's definitely a lot of scenery, and in fall, different trees and shrubs that give it that sense of peace as they're coming up to the house. But then once they get to the house, a lot of our guests think that the house is the final arrival sequence. And the way Olmsted designed everything is, it's not the house, it's that distant view. So you walk through the house, you look out the back of the house, you go to the South Terrace or the Library Terrace. That's the ultimate guest arrival sequence, or the end of that guest arrival sequence that Olmsted specified.
And the original estate was 125,000 acres?
125,000 acres.
And most of that's national forest, so that is still, the original vista is still what was here with the house.
What Olmsted and primarily what Mr. Vanderbilt's guests would have seen.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about the trees that you think are the best for fall color, the most dynamic.
Yeah, I'm always drawn towards the sugar maples.
Right.
I think they give off some really good fall color. Close behind that would be the red maples, the hickories, the tulip poplars. Some of those plants and trees that maybe guests that we get here on the estate don't quite know a lot about is the Perodia persica.
Yeah.
The Ceracetophyllum, that one's great. It smells like cotton candy when the leaves start to fall as well. But then there's the deciduous evergreens as well, the metasequoia, the dawn redwoods, the bald cypress, and the larches. But then don't forget about the bark. But then even like the shagbark hickory, that exfoliating bark, the shedding bark that'll come off of it. And then the crepe myrtles.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of my favorites also is ginkgo, and I'm starting to see that a lot more in landscapes in the context of fall color.
Yeah, especially, we're starting to use it more up here in the mountains. There's always that hesitancy, are you going to get the male or the female?
Right.
You definitely don't want the female.
You don't want the female,
No,
right,
yeah.
unless you want to mess.
But it does have that brilliant golden fall color that is really striking whenever it's accompanied with some evergreen trees. And that's another important aspect that guests will see from here at the Vista, is Olmsted made sure that there was an evergreen backdrop throughout the woods, so that during the fall color season and even into winter, that it's not just a blank canvas. There's some evergreen, and you put the deciduous trees amongst those. That green color really helps the changing of the leaves stand out. Fall is a great time to see leaves, but more importantly, I think it's a great time to see the plant itself.
Right.
As the leaves start to change, you're drawn towards those trees a little bit more, and you start to notice the other textures of them that you may not see in the fall because you're more or less directed towards the annuals and the perennials in the landscape. Now you get to see the trees in the fall.
Bill, my home garden's not very big, and so I rely mainly on shrubs to bring in that really high impact fall color.
Yeah.
And there's so many great selections. I probably have 40 or 50 of them on a very, very small plot. And they have, in many cases, as much punch as the trees, but just in miniature.
Yeah, especially when you come with the fall color and that leaf color for those shrubs. Think of the witch hazels. Yeah. I think that's probably an underused fall plant. A lot of people use that for the spring bloom or the late winter bloom, but the fall color in that is just outstanding. Couple that with maybe the sweet shrub.
Right.
Great summer blooming, but that fall color is just outstanding with it as well. So there's a lot of shrubs that have just as much impact with their fall color as they do with their bloom color as well.
I love mixing different gradients of fall color too. Imagine like oak leaf hydrangea with that deep, deep red, and then plant that with some spirea in front of it.
Yes.
Where you get more of those yellow, oranges. And thinking about planting different kind of fall color foliages in concert is really a great way to create these beautiful vignettes.
Yeah, especially if you can, that have that succession planting.
Right.
So you've always got that fall color from the early October through mid-November. And you can do that if you look at certain plants in certain places. That that all goes back to that right plant, right place. It's not just what's going to make the plant grow the best, but where are you looking for that color to be?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about berries. And there are many, many shrubs who have wonderful winter berry displays.
Calicarpa is the one that seems to always pop up, that purple beauty berry. It's got the purple berries. You can get the white berries as well. And then you can get into some of the hollies. The deciduous hollies have got some really nice color with the red berries on those. And even viburnums, especially if you can pair that with, once again, that evergreen backdrop.
Right.
That really helps those plants that have smaller, intricate fall color to really stand out and pop.
One thing we talked about earlier when we were discussing trees was bark. And as you and I have been walking through the garden, there's quite a few of the yellow twig and red twig dogwood, which I think are underutilized in the garden again.
They are.
But hugely impactful.
Hugely impactful, especially once you get into the wintertime. The paperbark maples.
Right.
You know, it's a smaller tree. You could consider it as maybe a larger shrub, but beautiful plant in the fall as well with the exfoliating bark on that, and the crepe myrtles.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so many ways to make winter fun.
Exactly.
You know,
A lot of ways to make fall fun as well.
Bill, I've been visiting Biltmore Estates for over 25 years, and one thing that is always impressive to me is just the ongoing work that goes into basically preserving the original design intent that Olmsted had from years ago.
Yeah.
And you're in the middle of a pretty expansive project right now that really underscores the importance of that.
It does, and you know, the mission statement for the company is the preservation of Biltmore Estate is a privately owned, profitable working estate. And that preservation is something that we consistently look at, and how can we maintain that original design intent of not only Hunt, who designed the house, but Olmsted here in the gardens. And when we looked at the Italian garden, we know that there's a hemlock hedge here that wasn't original to the estate.
Okay.
And doing more research, we find that there's an original manuscript from Olmsted talking about how the holly hedge should be brought up in the Italian garden. And so we know that it should have been American hollies. So we went through the painstakingly tedious effort back in 2018 to take 500 cuttings from an original American holly hedge we have in the wall garden, send those to a nursery in Georgia. They got them propagated, send them to another nursery in Georgia, and we'll be getting those back actually next week in 15-gallon containers, 5 feet tall.
Wow, it's just amazing to see the amount of forethought that goes into these projects, and it's very thoughtful and it's very intentional.
Yeah, it is intentional, and it's our desire to be as authentic as we can. We very well could have gone and bought the holly somewhere else,
Right.
but having that authenticity back to an original holly hedge that we know was specified here was very important to us.
I love that. That's what makes these grounds so important.
It does, yeah.
So you're about to plant these now. It's fall.
It is fall.
And I know a lot of people, they love to do their planting in the spring. And of course, that's when we got the gardening itch. Everything's popping out of the
Yes.
ground. We have blooms happening.
Yeah, but the best time to plant's in the fall.
Yeah.
You know, you get that season of growth to where the plant is going to be able to get established before summer comes. And we all know what summer's like.
Right.
Hot, not a lot of rain. So you want those roots to be well established. And the best way to do that is to plant the plant in the fall. Give it that spring time to get its roots established so that when summer comes through, it's going to be able to sustain the heat.
Absolutely. And what a lot of folks don't know is that the lion's share of the root growth that occurs every year
Happens in the fall, winter, and spring.
That's right. Right
Yeah.
before flush, you're going to get that big root flush. Then you get the vegetative flush.
Right.
So if we plant in spring, after everything's already up,
You
then
don't get that root growth.
Right.
So the plant's going to struggle through the summer. If it can make it through the summer into the fall, you're generally good. But fall is the best time to plant.
the Panner Garden, which is located just above the conservatory, is a great place to see seasonal color. We've been talking about trees and shrubs, but this is where a lot of perennials and annuals get to shine.
Yeah, it is. The wall garden is just a little over 1/10 of an acre of what we plant. The whole garden is 4 acres. So there's plenty of opportunity to plant those seasonal plantings. And fall, you can't think of anything but mums when it comes to those annual plantings.
I love
it. The mums just add such a bold character of color. When you think of the big plumes of blooms on those, and when you plant them in mass, you can't go wrong.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did the mum design look like this season?
The mum design this year, it had some rays that shot off of it. It's kind of hard to explain. But we try to do something different every year. And you can get a good feel for it from the ground of what it's going to be, especially when you have beds this size. But we're always looking at yellows, reds, purples, whites, bronzes, and then some of the lilacs as well.
Yeah, the mums are a very versatile plant because you've got early bloomers, mid bloomers, late bloomers.
Late bloomers.
You can really get a long season out of chrysanthemum.
You can, and for us, we tend to go with the late and the early, late, and the late, just because we want those blooms to be in October. But you can definitely get mums from the garden center that are going to bloom in the 1st of September. Just keep in mind, if they're blooming the 1st of September, they're generally not going to be blooming in October. So you might have to go out and purchase more.
Right, absolutely. So talk to me about the design component. Is that something that you do or your team works on?
Yeah, it's something that my team works on. We want to make sure that the gardeners and the staff have an interest and a direct connection to what they're doing. And the best way to do that is to have them actively involved in the design process throughout the year. We try to stay about a year ahead. So currently we're working on fall for next year so that we can get that ordered through our growers. And then the staff are invested in it. They're going to take better care of it. They're going to have more of an interest in taking care of not only the plant material, but what the guests are seeing when they come through.
So this garden turns over 4 times a year, that's right?
It does, yeah. So our mums, great fall color. And then once the mums are done, we start planting our 125,000 tulip bulbs in the garden. And then once they're done blooming in the middle of April, we'll pull those out and we'll go ahead and plant in our frost-tolerant annuals. Think poppies and snapdragons. And then once they're done blooming after May 15th, which is our average frost date, we'll plant our summer annuals.
Wonderful. So yet again, another great reason to come back and visit Biltmore with every season.
At least 4 times a year, exactly.
I love it. As a gardener, it's where I get so many ideas. And what I love about these kind of pattern gardens is that each little section is small. My garden's small.
Right.
And as a homeowner, I can then look at those small plantings and those designs, and oftentimes it's like, okay, wow, I can do that at home and take those design ideas back to the garden center and then back to the garden.
Yeah, you know, we've got a lot of small gardens on the property. The wall garden can be rather large, but there's small gardens everywhere. And a guest and a homeowner should be able to look at those and say, yeah, I never thought of that. I never thought of using that plant this time of year. But if I use it this time of year, that's going to carry over to summer or fall, and I only have to plant that once instead of maybe 3 different times.
So you're okay with us just stealing all your best ideas?
As long as you can fit it in your pocket.
I love it. Bill, as we think about other ways of extending seasonal color, I think the containers are a great fit. They work with any size garden, and there's so much that we can do with them.
Yeah, and it's when you say a great fit, for those folks that have got a small space,
right,
even on their decks, their patios, containers are a great option for those folks that have just that limited space, or maybe even limited mobility.
Yeah, one thing that I love that you've done with this container is the centerpiece is an evergreen. We think about extending color into the fall and into the winter. Having the pillar, if you will, be an evergreen. This is a cryptomeria. Great choice. There's so many other ones. I think of like camellias. Work great.
Camellias, and for us, any evergreen that's going to be hardy in our zone is a candidate for this what you see with this cryptomeria, that centerpiece. We'll start with tropicals, of course, during the summer. But once we get to the fall, we're going to transition into these evergreens that will give us a fall presence and a winter presence, and then carry into the spring as well. So we get 3 seasons. It's just less change out we have to do. And then underplant it with those fall plants. And here we've got the ornamental cabbage, the vinca, and some snapdragons. We'll be able to change that out for the winter planting, and then we'll change that out again for the spring planting. So we're getting a lot more bang for our buck with this one plant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also like to think about the container itself as a wonderful color addition.
It is. When you think of the cobalt blue containers that are out there and some of the reds, they really add a sense of color, a pop, if you might say, especially if you've got a dark corner of the landscape that you want to put some a container, but you might not be sure on the plants. You can almost guarantee that you can add color just by the planter itself.
Absolutely. And so at Biltmore, you change the containers out how many times a year?
On the average, we'll change them out about 4 times a year as well. There's some that we only change out 2. We'll have a summer plant material and then the winter plant material. But most of them we change out 4 times. And we're looking at that fall planting, the winter planting, a spring, and then a summer planting as well.
I think some other great ideas when we think about like the pillars, the main show of the container. Ornamental grasses work great in containers.
They work awesome in containers. For us, we found that the key for those is to get them started early so that they have time to get their roots established, and then the show for those grasses is the seed heads themselves. So making sure we give plenty of opportunity for those to mature as we go into the fall. And you couple that with the fall plants of calibrachoa and mums and snapdragons, you can really make an awesome container with just a few plants.
Absolutely. One thing I tried in containers a few years ago, we mentioned the yellow twig and the red twig dogwood, which actually just those bright red or yellow dormant twigs, they look fantastic in a container.
They look awesome in containers. And that's something that you can actually, you can plant that in the spring and use the bloom for those during the late spring, early summer, and then you're counting on that red or yellow twig during the fall going into winter, and being able to couple that with some really nice plants as an understory is awesome. More importantly, once you get some snow on those red and yellow twigs, that really makes it stand out as well.
Well, and if you don't have a red or yellow twig dogwood, you can basically just find some dormant limbs.
You can find some dormant limbs and paint them yourself.
Paint them yourself,
and put them in the container. A lot of people do that. They'll find pine cones and paint them. My house, we did pine cones with peanut butter and birdseed on it to help feed the birds during the wintertime. But you can find a lot of things in your landscape and use that for your container. So clippings from other evergreens to be able to put those in, whether they're berries or it's the foliage or whether it's the exfoliating bark, you can certainly use that for your containers during the fall.
Well, it'd be hard for me to resist putting some ornaments on this when it comes time for Christmas, too.
I'm not sure Santa Claus is going to visit you this year.
Maybe not, Bill. What a wonderful day, and I've learned so much from you. It's been so much fun spending the day at Biltmore and talking fall. It's been great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Each week we travel the country north to south, east to west, visiting some of the most exciting gardens, as well as talking to industry horticulturalists about design principles, new plants, and also how you can be most successful with your home gardens. We also love answering your gardening questions, so visit us on the web at GardenSMART.com.
These moments of beauty and relaxation are brought to you by Proven Winners Flowering Shrubs. Our goal is to leave you free to just enjoy your garden. Proven Winners Flowering Shrubs can be found at local garden centers across the country.
Power Planters garden drill augers are designed to help you tackle the digging jobs in your garden or yard. Dig through hard soil to assist in planting trees, shrubs, and annuals. Power Planters heavy-duty augers, made for professional landscapers and home gardeners alike.
DRAM has been providing gardeners with professional equipment for over 80 years. DRAM products feature 9 water patterns and are designed to nurture your plants with a shower of rain. DRAM for lawn and garden, available at garden centers near you.
The Jaguar F-Pace.
I love learning new ways to keep the garden lively year-round, and it's so helpful to see public gardens who do a great job of keeping things exciting through all 4 seasons. If you have questions about anything you've seen today, visit us on the web at GardenSMART.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember, even if you're a master gardener, there's always more to learn. So join us next week for more great gardening tips and ideas as we garden smart.